Welcome back to Turning Pages. Today we're speaking with author Clifford Jackman, and we're talking about his new book, The Winter Family. Clifford is a local author. He hails from Guelph, Ontario, and welcome to the show, Clifford.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, The Winter Family isn't your first novel.
No, first back in, I think, 2008, I self-published a story called Oklahoma 1891, which was later incorporated into The Winter Family. And then I signed a deal for 3 books with a small publisher called Manor House Publishing, and I put out 2 short stories and a novella. 2 books of short stories and a novella called The Black Box. And then while that was happening, I managed to get an agent and go through the process of getting a book deal with the big publishing company, Random House, and that's the book that just came out a month ago.
Okay, we'll talk about The Winter Family in just a second. Tell me about the process of getting an agent. What was that like?
Well, I didn't do it by the traditional path, I guess. I attended a literary event called the Darklit Festival in Oshawa, and Carolyn Ford, my agent, was doing pitch sessions where you sat down and 10 people had 10 minutes to pitch a book or something. And that's how I first met Carolyn, and eventually I submitted a full manuscript to her about a year later or something, and she ended up taking me on as a client selling my book.
And this was concurrent to you meeting the obligations of your previous deal?
And then at the same time I was still publishing with small press for sure.
Okay, awesome. So tell me about The Winter Family. It's just come out this year.
Yep.
And it was, what was it, April?
Yes, April 2015 it came out on the 14th.
Okay, so it's a Western. It's a dark Western. Well, set it up a bit for us, just, not to spoil it for readers, but let us know what it's about.
Well, it's about a group of outlaws that are all deserters from the Union Army at the Civil War. So at the end of the Civil War, they kind of desert. They are already up to be court-martialed because of the things they did during the war, and they basically become bandits. But the twist, I guess, is that a lot of the time they're working for people in positions of authority, so they're kind of doing the dirty work of like robber barons and powerful people in civilization, basically. And then eventually the book follows them over a 25-year period, and then it ends kind of like the final showdown, basically, in Oklahoma at the end of the story.
So that's kind of cool. They're the nasty grease of the wheels of Western development, I guess.
That's basically the idea. They're neither kind of true outlaws, nor are they really sort of civilized. They're kind of, it's a very ugly period in sort of history, and they're kind of doing the dirty work, but also a lot of the time just biting the hand that feeds them, basically. And that's eventually part of the thing that what leads to their downfall is they're not really very trustworthy servants, basically.
Now, The Winter Family, it's named after the lead character, or at least the patriarchal. Is it fair to call him a patriarch? Yeah,
well, a big part of the novel is about how he takes over that group. Originally, they're led by a different guy who was their lieutenant in the Civil War, and I'm probably not giving away too much since the book's actually called The Winter Family, that eventually Augustus Winter, who was very young during the war, kind of dominates that group, basically, and how he kind of becomes their leader is a big part of the story.
Now, is this a standalone story, or is it part of a greater set of stories that you're working on?
It's a standalone story, although we are releasing a kind of a sequel or a story set in the same universe as an ebook short, which is so if you have a Kindle or something, or a Kobo, then you can buy a copy of it. If you're curious about the whole book, it's not a bad place to start.
And what's the name of the ebook? It's
called The Winter Family, California 1901.
And so it would come after the events in The Winter Family?
Because the events of The Winter Family run from Georgia 1864 to Chicago 1872, Phoenix 1881, and then the last chapter is Oklahoma 1891. So California's 10 years afterwards.
Okay. And what are you working on now?
I'm working on 2 things. I've kind of been my son was born last year, so I've been pretty busy, but I'm working on a ghost story, actually. And then I'm also going to write another historical novel, more in the vein of The Winter Family, probably starting this fall, hopefully.
Is the ghost story contemporary?
Yeah, it's a contemporary ghost story set in modern-day Toronto.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty big change of pace, so we'll see how it goes.
Yep. How far along are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I think 80,000 words, so hopefully like 3/4, 4/5 of the way done the first draft.
Oh, that's awesome. And you feel good?
I feel pretty good. We'll see.
The momentum's going?
Well, it's hard to build momentum because I'm so busy with everything else, but I do feel pretty good about that project. I'll get it done, and I like the characters and I like the whole thing, so hopefully that'll get published. We'll see.
Oh, well, that's great. So the book again is The Winter Family. It's available at bookstores everywhere. It's available on Amazon, I'm sure, as well. And look for the Kindle Companion as well. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Clifford.
Thank you
all
very
the
much
best.
for
Thank
having
you.
me.
And we'll be back after this break with more Turning Pages.